a man who says that we should not be having children because we should have fewer children because of climate change. Can you? What's the argument here?
Connection a lot of people may not immediately make. So Travis Reeder, he's not a climate scientist. He's a philosopher. He's a bioethicist at the Berman Institute of Bioethics at Johns Hopkins, and he kind of came into this in a roundabout fashion. And started looking at climate issues and the ethics of them and carbon emissions created by each child that we have. And it says, the problem is so big. Climate change is happening so fast. The Paris climate deal, impactful though it is, it does not nearly go far enough to avoid, what scientists predict will be this catastrophic tipping point sometime later this century. And there is a study that says, well, actually, if we reduce global fertility by half a child per woman, that you could maybe do that. It would go a long way, but it would reduce like a big chunk, a fifth to a quarter of all carbon emissions needed to avoid that tipping point. So he says this is something that we should look at. We have the technology and we could do this.
Wow. If you have any questions or comments about this story, this issue, feel free to pop them into the comments. We'll see if we can address or discuss any of them here. But I wanted to bring up, there's sort of a two-pronged argument here, right? The one is that having fewer kids would help reduce global warming, but he also kind of makes a moral stance for the sake of the kids.
Exactly. So you would be creating a being that, by all predictions, what the science says, will face suffering later in the child's lifetime. Or if we're talking about Americans specifically and some other Westerners, they would contribute greatly to the suffering of other people in poorer parts of the world because we have, among the world's highest emissions per capita in this country. Yet poor nations, they have far fewer emissions so far per capita, but are expected to suffer far greater impacts as climate change plays out. And so he goes before roomfuls of students and says, that's I'm making a child and someone else is going to suffer. Where's the ethics there?
Wow.